Hey everybody, Kaoiji here. So I keep getting people coming to tell me that NGS units are pretty much useless. As of right now, they're going to be waiting till winter before they upgrade their gear, or at least waiting till the Gigantics begin to spawn. For those of you guys who are waiting for the end of the year to be able to upgrade your gear, I still don't understand why, and I'm hoping that what I'm about to show you will at least convince you to maybe consider upgrading your gear. As far as Gigantics are concerned, I completely understand those of you guys who are waiting till after they spawn to be able to upgrade your gear, assuming that you can or cannot kill them, or you're getting one shot. My personal opinion is I think that is a safer bet than not upgrading your gear at all. But anyway, let's go over the comparison of damage taken versus the two series of units, the Klauz units from base PSO2 and the New Genesis units. And in this case, I'm going to be using the Qual armor Belta. Just so we can go over all of the gear that I'm going to be using for this test, I'm going to be going as a Force main and Techer sub with an Atlas EX rod. For the sake of transparency, the rod itself will only give me 1.5% damage resistance and only about 7 HP. Now, each Klauz unit that I currently have, save for my legs, will be giving me about 5% damage resistance and 14 HP per unit, whereas my legs, because it has Skydance Boon, will be giving me about another 6.5% damage resistance. That's going to wind up giving me 482 defense and pretty much give or take around 17% damage resistance because of the 0.5s that I had on my previous two units that I didn't count. And then as far as our Qual armor Beltas, we're going to have Nexol 2, Resolano, Alt Secret 2, and Technique 3. Of those augments will be giving me damage resistance, except for the Alt Secret, which is going to be giving me negative 1.5 damage resistance per unit, for a grand total of negative 3.5 damage resistance compared to our Klauz units, which have 17% damage resistance. The difference here is that we're going to have a defensive stat of 560, and then we're also going to be gaining 4% potency over the Klauz units. The only problem here is that we only have 230 HP as opposed to the 301 that we had with the Klauz units. First, let's test out our Klauz units, which is going to have a defensive value of 482. Remember, keep in mind that this also has 17% damage resistance. For the sake of these tests, we're also going to be testing the damage on the Didal Sword and Southern Alio. I wound up testing the damage values from the Bansers as well as Big Frogga and the LD Scythe, and pretty much found that this is one of the easiest ways to be able to see the amount of damage that comes out all at once. The eye lasers from the Didal Sword, you wind up seeing that we wind up getting hit for anywhere between 34 to 38 damage. Then when I get hit with the chest laser, in this particular instance, I get hit for 88 damage. Well, I'm surprised that I didn't die here, because I basically get wombo comboed. But from the slam attack that we wound up getting from the Didal Sword, then I wound up getting hit for 190 damage. And then finally, for the frontal swipe, you can see that we wound up getting hit for 139. Of all the different times that I wound up testing it, I wound up seeing that the eye lasers were hitting me for anywhere between 34 to 38 damage. The chest lasers were hitting me from 84 to 88 damage. Sometimes that particular number was higher, but I don't know why. The forward slam attack would hit me for anywhere between 190 to 200 damage. And then the forward swipe would wind up hitting me for 135 damage to 141 damage. Again, there were some other variances in this numbers, but these are the ones that I can remember that I wrote down. Now, for this next example, we're going to be using the Qual armor Belta units that I wound up having, and it's going to give me a defensive value of 560. Keep in mind as well that I have a negative 3.5% damage resistance. So in this example, we only have an 80 defensive value difference. Just in case anybody's wondering, the 4% potency difference between the two units, simply because I'm using a Phantasy Star Online 2 weapon, basically it comes out to a variance of about 10 damage per hit. Damage values would be a lot higher, but that's not the point of this example. The point of this example is to be talking about the actual units and the amount of damage that we wound up receiving. So immediately once we start going up against the Didal Sword, you'll see that we basically take just about half damage, if not less than half, where we wind up getting hit for anywhere between 18 to 24 damage. The chest laser in this case also wound up hitting us for 48. A very unfortunate time for the lag to start hitting, but when it finally settled out, the slime attack wound up hitting me for 108 damage, which is again significantly less than the 190 that we wound up taking before. And then finally, the forward swipe wound up hitting us for about 72 damage. So all in all, across all of the different times that we wound up getting hit with each of these attacks, the eye lasers wound up hitting us anywhere between 18 to 25 damage. The chest lasers wound up hitting us anywhere between 48 to 55 damage. The slam wound up doing 108 to 121 damage, and then the forward swipe wound up doing 68 to 74 damage. Now, there are a couple other attacks that I could have actually progressed the Didal Sword's HP health low enough so that way we would have been able to see. Pretty sure that by using these tests alone, you can pretty much see that there is a substantial damage difference that you wind up taking when it comes comes to using the NGS units over the ones from base PSO2. And pretty much with all that being said, the defensive stats when it comes to the NGS units are that much better. You can bring those damage values even lower if you want to be using something like the Volatile set, which also gives you a native 1% damage resistance and some higher defensive values. Now, when it comes to the offensive stats, you wind up seeing that I wind up getting a 4% increase when it comes to my potency when it comes to tech power. Like I said before, that is a much lower variance than what you might be thinking, because that winds up going into about 10 damage difference. That difference then becomes higher if you want to be using NGS weapons at plus 40 by themselves, but I'm going to be going over that in a pretty much in a different video. For those of you guys who are out there with God units when it comes to Phantasy Star Online 2, you don't really have anything to worry about, because as far as damage is concerned, you're pretty much doing just about the same, maybe 10 or 20 less. Again, we're talking about units specifically. But for those of you guys who do not have God units, you should definitely be upgrading towards the NGS units regardless of the exact Meseta cost, because you definitely will see some value out of your units. Now, on the other hand, I do have a little bit of advice. I do want to echo all of the comments that I wound up getting when it comes to people talking about how they're going to wait until after the Gigantics launches to be able to see their drop table. And the reason I say this is because of the type of world boss that they are. I also have a sneaking suspicion that the Gigantics are going to be dropping another unit series that will be better than what we currently have now. But if you do wind up upgrading, maybe don't get them to plus 40, get them to about maybe plus 20, and then augment them. That way you can actually get some defensive stats out of it, so you don't get one shot with the Gigantics every swing. Although I also have a feeling that they're probably going to one shot us anyway, even with some of the best gear. But yeah, so those are my advices, those are my opinions, these are the comparisons that we have so far. Now I want to try to do this as short as possible just to be able to show you guys some examples. So yeah, with that, I hope you guys can at least have a better comparison when it comes to the units. Stay awesome, stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. I'm out.